Welcome to Building While Flying, a Sasha Group podcast where we interview business leaders about how they tackle challenges, stay resilient, and navigate ever-changing skies.
Hi, we are back on the Building While Flying podcast. On this week's episode, Katie speaks with Anouck Gotlib, CEO of Belgian Boys. She's on a mission to turn up the happy, one sweet moment at a time. Launched in 2015, Belgian Boys is in the business of fun, offering a delicious assortment of breakfast, sweet treats, and desserts available in 5,000 stores and online. She leads a passionate team dedicated to growing more than just a revenue-driven business, creating joy for customers and spreading sweetness in people's lives. Katie, Anouck was a delight herself.
She was. I've got to plug my computer in. She was such a delight. You can really feel the love in the company, and you can really feel that motivator of they're not just in it to make money out of product. They're in it to create something that sparks joy at family breakfast. So I think that's lovely.
Yeah. Let's talk about the magic of Greg, Anouck's husband, and Anouck's origin story.
I know.
Give our listeners a little sneak peek as to how Anouck met her now husband and business partner.
I know. Well, what a tale of kismet. I love how we have a little Building While Flying theme going on here. And
seriously,
massively is because these two met on a plane.
Yeah.
Not only found love, but also found a business. So I think some of that kind of magic sparkle dust has obviously infiltrated into the way they're building a brand too.
Yeah, definitely. She also talks about the fact that these treats are coming from a place of nostalgia from her and her husband who grew up in Belgium, but that Americans didn't feel that because they didn't have this experience to hold on to. What can we learn from the fact that Anouck was able to take this feeling that Americans couldn't feel and still use it to her advantage?
I thought that was such an important part of the story. The fact that they had something that inspired them to create a product that was this tale from their childhood and something they wanted to bring to this market, but they had the absolute understanding that you can't just plonk this stuff into the US and expect the US consumer to get it or to even have that same nostalgic association. And so the real work they've done to understand the audience here and to understand what it is you're tapping into, and to just a small adjustment, is about that kind of the joy and the lightness and the simplicity of something sweet in the morning. What was her line? It was something like, life is hard, breakfast should not be.
Yeah, exactly. And she's so right. We were just talking about how we don't have time to meal prep on Sundays and get ready for the week. We just want it to be there for us. And she's doing that.
I loved her description of the Walmart shopper and how self-aware she is, that it's not, I'm not the target right now. This is busy mama 3, where being in Walmart or Costco, wherever it is, becomes actually an outing. Mm-hmm. And the fact that the kids, everyone gets to pick something to put in the cart. And that's where potentially the new product opportunity for new product trial lives. And that then can become something that becomes a staple for the family. Really, really good understanding of how things end up in the cart.
Yeah, I loved that. Browsing is the activity.
Right. I mean, everyone loves a good impulse buy. That's how Sephora make all that money from those little containers on the way to the checkout.
Oh, that's dangerous. And then she gave us a little sample of what the packages looked like, and we were able to see the two minions who are kind of, she said, Greg and Greg's friend from college, and those have become the mascot for Belgian Boys. You gave some good advice to kind of where you see these minions going in the future. What'd you tell Anouck?
I mean, I just think having something like this as a brand asset that is a natural part of the identity that you built is a huge advantage right now. especially in all of this landscape of very disparate channels, and the opportunity to build these into real, sort of three-dimensional, well-rounded little characters to act as additional spokespeople for the brand is huge. So I'm excited to see where they net out with that. It sounds like they're already playing with bringing those to life as part of the next wave once they get this investment round done.
Yes, definitely. Hopefully they can take a page out of Gary's Befriend book. Hell
yeah. Like gone to the old brand mascot of yesteryear needs resurfacing in a with a modern day spin, I think.
Bring it to life, literally.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's not keep our listeners waiting any longer. Let's jump into Katie's conversation with Anouck.
Welcome to the show, Anouck.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
This is going to be a fun conversation, I can tell. So I'm going to start just as a bit of an intro just to ground us, because this is a kind of double whammy building while flying story, right? Because the beginning of this brand starts on a plane.
Exactly. I think it's very, very funny. But yeah, that's how we started. So Greg, who's the chubby one on the logo, my husband, we met on a plane from Belgium to New York. And so we started building literally in a plane.
I love it. So how did that happen? You met on a plane, you found love and started planning a business on that flight? Or how did it
yes and no, right? I mean, basically, Greg, actually, he went to Brandeis from Belgium. He's also from Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
Went to Brandeis and noticed that, he was just bringing for himself the treats that we grew up with in Belgium, the cookies, the Stroopwafel. And his American friends in the dorms were like, oh my God, this is good. Where can I buy it? Where can I find it? And it just wasn't there. And so every time his mom was visiting or something, it's like, bring this one with the chocolate, with the caramel, like getting like super specific about what everybody wants. And he's like, maybe there's an idea here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went on a plane from Belgium to New York. Actually, my background's fashion design.
Uh-huh.
And so I studied fashion design, came here to work at Zach Posen, and met Greg on the plane from Belgium to New York. And, Greg was having this idea to just develop, something. And I'm like, well, can't just put a waffle in a wrapper on a shelf. Like, we need a logo, we need a brand, we need clothes really for the waffles. We need to create that story around the brand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the long story, very short, I want to say, of how we started in that plane.
That's amazing. So Greg was the ideas behind bringing Stroopwafels and all those wonderful Belgian treats to the States. And you were the one who realized you needed to create a brand and bring all that brand and fashion and aesthetic understanding to the picture. So how do you go from seeing that hole in the market to actually creating the product and deciding what products were really going to land and be the right ones for Belgium?
Yeah, I mean, we've launched our company 7 years ago. So it's not like an overnight, all of a sudden we're in 5,000 stores. There's a lot of learning and a lot of, just testing, meeting our customers, asking, hey, what do you think of that? When we started with our assortment, I mean, it's really our origin story, right? Like, this is the staples we grew up on, that real Belgian waffle, that crepe, that pancake, the mini pancakes, that
oh my God,
puffer
stop.
crust.
I'm just thinking about I actually had Stroopwafels last in Amsterdam, not Belgium. Sorry about that. But they were damn good. And I'm just thinking about treats right now.
Yeah. And, with Amsterdam, like that's part of my childhood too. Like, we would take the train from Antwerp to Amsterdam and eat Stroopwafels on our way back. We would go take the TGV and go to Paris and eat a fresh grape. Like, Belgium is that influx of cultures from around it. And that's really what started in our origin story. It's like all these treats that we grew up with, let's bring them here. Those staples really that are not here and that we can't find them. Yeah.
And why the name Belgian Boys? You said that Greg is one of the characters on the logo. Who's the other, and why boys?
Yes, well, so Greg's one of the characters. Greg is the chubby one on the logo, and Joel is Greg's friend who originally started the business with Greg. He took a step back from the business. And you know what they say, behind boys, there's always a girl.
There's always the big marketing and branding thing, putting it all together.
Yes, and I think we kind of realized that I more had the CEO skills, and Greg's really that entrepreneur, the visionary. He's the innovator. He works on product, the suppliers, all of the real that part of the business, and I'm more on business development, the future, the team, the sales, like all of that part of the business. And in that sense, we really kind of balance each other out and complement. And instead of walking on each other's feet, we just, this is your strengths, this is mine, and let's just take this to the moon.
It sounds like you found the enviable solution to working in business and life with your partner. Bravo.
It's not every day that it's all like, yes, let's, fun. And I think as long as you're there and you know what the end goal is, or not even the end goal, but more like what it is that you want to do, which is enjoy every single day on this journey, and I get to do it with my husband. We're aligned both in business and in life, and like we have those same goals and the same things that are important to us, and in that way it seems natural. But some days I want to we some days it's less fun, but most days it's good days.
Most days agreement, but
yes, for
and
sure,
get past the tough one.
For sure.
So let's go back to the setting up of the business. So you've been in business for 7 years. You've sort of taken on the role of CEO. Greg is very much thinking about kind of vision, create the product side. You also, as you describe the brand itself, it kind of is, it's about the business of fun. It's about creating joy for customers. So can you talk a little bit about that, the kind of the vision and the intention of the brand, like where that sits as you were building out that brand story?
Yeah, so, going back to that origin story, we started because it was born out of the nostalgia we had for our authentic treats. But it kind of evolved to, like the American consumer, he cannot relate to that nostalgia that we had. What he can relate to is that European foods, that the raw materials that we use, that deliciousness of the product, all of that goes into it, but we need to bring it to the US, and that's how we mainstream those treats that we really grew up with. And that happy factor, that's where it came in, and I think it was really amplified in the pandemic. But that's what we do. We make those smiles. That's the power of our brand. Life is hard. When you can start it with a cookie or with a waffle, with a crepe, with a pancake, like it doesn't need to be so complicated. And it should make your life easier. It should be convenient, and you shouldn't be, compromising on the ingredients that goes in those products, right? And in the pandemic, it was amplified. When the pandemic started, we're in New York. It was chaos here, and we wanted to help. So there were all these hospitals. We started taking Sharpies, writing "Thank you, healthcare workers." UPS was showing up, and we were just filling the truck with waffles and cookies and treats. And we started getting emails, letters, phone calls back of, I just spent 48-hour shift. Thank you so much. This is the best moment of my day. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, you're saving lives. I'm sending a cookie. Why are you thanking me? But it really amplified that power that we had. And it was at that time that we were like, yes, we got to turn up that happy even more, because that is what our consumer wants and needs. And why? They align with our brand and they want to join our journey.
And you could create this very simple, sweet moment in probably what was a really trying and difficult and traumatic day.
Exactly.
It's kind of like that innocent little pocket of enjoyment that you can have with something like a sweet treat.
Yes.
So during the last 7 years, tracking from that moment on the plane, and I'm sure the pandemic and decisions you had to make about the brand in the pandemic sort of led into this. You have really grown steadily, and in fact, you were named to the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing private companies in America. We're in the very top 50 of all food and beverage companies. So, what would you say has contributed to that in those early days, and then maybe as a second one, we can talk a little bit about what happened with the company during the pandemic.
Definitely. So, we were not an overnight success. We're not. And I do think that, it is the hard work and all of that. But what we've been really good at is building that foundation. And that's Belgian Boys 1.0 for me. We've built a foundation. We found out what works. What does our consumer want? Our Belgian waffle used to be named the Liège waffle.
Mm-hmm. Nobody knew what that meant.
Nobody knew what that meant. Liège is a city in Belgium where the authentic waffle is originally from. But what we did is gave the consumer the feeling to be stupid for $4.99. And I'm like, why did we do that? When you think about it. But it's all those little things that you fine tune. And we decided to do it first because we just didn't have the budget, because we were a bootstrapped company. But we decided to really take a methodological approach to it, and incubate, test, learn, and then scale. Incubate, test, learn, and scale. We brought this concept of fresh breakfast. You're from the UK. You are familiar to that. But when we started, we brought our product to the US, crepes, pancakes, waffle. People told us, frozen breakfast next to Eggo. That's where you need to be.
Interesting.
And we were like, well, in Europe, these products are merchandised fresh. That's what we grew up with. Crepes are in the fridge next to, you go
the butter and the milk.
Yeah. Exactly, because that's where you buy breakfast food. So why do you make people walk across the stores for those items? I don't get it. But it took a lot of years and a lot of time to convince. So we started at Costco. We did a rotation. That went well. Then we went to Walmart. 65 stores. Wow. We then grew that in a span of 3 years to 800 stores. So it took a lot of small steps that gave us just good data to know what we're doing once we go bigger.
And now if you look at the footprint of the brand, is it still big box retail predominantly, or how does the split look as you think about the company?
Yeah, so we really started with, that was more of a, we started at the local bodega here in New York. And then we grew into specialty accounts like Whole Foods, Central Market, creating the story there. And then we really grew into those mass retailers like Walmart, Target, Kroger, but we haven't done anything yet. So it's exciting for what's to come.
So, and what is on the roadmap for you next, do you think?
Well, we just launched our newest item, French toast, which I'm super excited about. It's just, to be honest, it's so exciting to launch an item in 2022 that I honestly think is going to be our best seller. It is French toast. If you think about French toast, it's like restaurants or
brunch type staple.
Yes, or if you need to make it at home, you're like, okay, there's eggs everywhere, milk everywhere. Oh gosh, like it's a headache already just thinking about it. We made it just toast. You take it out of the package from your fridge, you put it in your toaster, the one that goes up and down. That's it. We made it fuss-free, mess-free, and it's made out of brioche. It is honestly the most delicious, wow, I just want it now. It's really, really good. And so I'm excited to launch this product to market, bring it to our existing partnerships and bring it to new partners. And we just announced our first ever fundraising. So that brings a lot of excitement to the brand. And finally, we'll be able to support the brand the way we should support it, put the marketing budget towards it, bring in amazing people and key talent that I'm so excited to find. And
with actually promoting the brand. I think you're thinking influencer,
yes, but also on our team. We need to grow our team, bring in people that we can learn from also. I'm excited about that because we haven't done anything yet.
So, wow, you barely scratched the surface, and yet you've achieved huge growth in 7 years, and now a new product to unlock new audiences. How exciting! I'm curious to know, because you've come from the background of being two Belgians in the US. You're bringing a lot of that kind of Euro nostalgia food.
Yes.
What have you learned about the US consumer that was surprising as you grew into this market? And it was really interesting what you said about not wanting to make people feel stupid for not knowing the French, these kind of French proper nouns. Are there other things which the US consumer has kind of done differently from how you expected, or kind of caused you to really pivot on your product roadmap?
Yes, I think it was discovering who our consumer is also. And, as a founder, especially food, that it's so easy, you think, okay, I'm the consumer. And this is my life, and it needs to fit a product for it needs to fit a gap for me. But we learned over the years, it's absolutely not. It doesn't. We used to be merchandised on the European set in the stores, where you
like
have
the
all
specialty food
the
counter.
specialty, all the nostalgic brands, like white and blue packaging, kind of. And our consumer is not looking for Belgian Boys, which has a branding of mainstream and that mass appeal in that set. We shouldn't be there.
Mm-hmm.
We realized, one time they tried to sell us New York subway ads. And I was like super excited. Like, I would love to take a selfie in front of a New York subway ad, right?
With my
like,
product.
With my product. That would be cool, right? For Greg and me and our team here in New York. But I'm like, yeah, our customer isn't like, we have our customer here that goes to the bodega, but that's not our mass consumer.
Mm-hmm.
Our mass consumer goes to Target, goes to Walmart on a Saturday afternoon for 2 hours, and they spend the time there with the family, with a coffee in the hand, and every kid can choose one new product. And that's an activity. And that's who our consumer is. Our consumer in their basket has eggs, has Nutella, has strawberry, has Tropicana OJ, and Lucky Charms.
And maple syrup.
And maple syrup. And it's like, and it's totally not, I can't say that these are things that I knew a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And you learn from that. You learn from your consumer when you actually ask them the questions, I think.
That's fascinating. So as you think about this new launch, what do you think is going to be the real unlock? And when you have hopefully this next round of investment that will enable you to really kind of go to the off to the races with spend and maybe a bit more scaled marketing, what are you thinking about in terms of that marketing strategy? What are your channels going to be? What's going to be your big workhorse, do you think?
Oh, there's just so much, there's been so much opportunities that we've had to say no to, not because, yes, we do say no to a lot of things that are not a part of the strategy, but some opportunities we just couldn't afford. And now we actually have the means to go after them, not only on a test or on a small scale, but on a big scale. I mean, those two guys on our logo, they need to come alive. That's a part of the brand. That's going to just differentiate us. That's just a dream for us, and continue to grow with our consumer, be more experimental, be more in front of our consumer, drive more trial. I mean, they're just so much.
I love that you talked about those two characters. And I don't know if you've been paying attention to some of what Gary's been talking about recently, but the idea of building brand equity or building out the brand equity of whether it's a character or a particular asset or an aspect of the story is just such a valuable part of brand building in this modern world that we're in. If there's one thing to dig into, I think I'm on the same page as you. It's bringing those little brothers to life or the boys to life and thinking about how they might. I mean, social is going to be a really fun place to bring that to life.
Yes, and going back to Belgium, it's part of who we are because we grew up in Belgium with Tintin, with the Smurfs. Like when we started with the brand development, we immediately went to animation because it's a part of who we are. Mm-hmm. And today it is very relevant to what is happening, but we haven't done anything yet with them. I mean, they're going to be the minions of the food business.
The minions of the food business. That's awesome. So in a year's time, we're going to be checking out all of your various social channels. You're going to have a TikTok devoted entirely to...
I love it.
The little minions running around.
Wow, the dream, right?
I guess last couple questions. One is, you mentioned this round of fundraising. How did you know it was time? How did you know that this was the time to really step it up a notch and go into Series A?
Yeah, we've been bootstrapped forever, right? And, we've been very capital efficient with Chase, Amex, line of credit, debt, loan, like name it. We've had experience with it. And so... when we looked at the next phase of the business of growth in the business, mistakes just become way more expensive as you grow. But I know that I need to be surrounded by that strategic advice, that strategic support, people that have been there, that can guide us through, that can guide my team through the next level of growth that is coming now. You know, I'm not minimizing from what we've done, but been there, done that, right? And now it's a new phase that we're in. And Greg and I were like, we want people from this industry to join our journey. We want people that have been there, that can help us think through the next challenges that we don't even know are going to come yet. And we were very intentional about our fundraising. I'm super lucky that in our fundraising, we have my role model, like Daniel Lubetsky, the founder of Kind Bar. Like, you asked me a year ago, top 5 people you want to meet in the world, like he was on that list. And so I'm very grateful for that. And it's very exciting. Their team is amazing.
Amazing, yeah.
And it's
great e-com. So will you be thinking about D2C as well as retail?
We're talking about it. DTC are right now our consumer really, and our success is more in brick and mortar. But lots of opportunities
huge amount
for the future.
And to unlock the brand itself too. So we talked a little bit earlier on about the fact that you've gone into business with your partner. And I'm going to end with a question that's about you as a leader, but also bearing in mind that you have a career and a life that are intertwined so much.
Yeah.
What would a couple of tips be that you would offer someone who was about to embark on a bootstrap business with their other half?
Oh my God. Get support. Honestly, Greg and I, during the pandemic, we got a coach, and it has changed our life. I wish we had done it earlier. To be honest, it changed everything for us, and we do it every week, and it is the moment of our week that we wait for.
Like an impartial outside advisor.
Yes.
No matter where you are in your trajectory.
Exactly. Whether that's a business coach or a consultant. But I like to us, it's really a core of who we've become. And what else? Well, know that you know what your weaknesses are and surround yourself with either people or techniques to get that as strengths as part of your team. And just be very patient with each other, but know that you're in this together. I want to say for a spouse,
I almost want to say it's advice for anyone, whether or not you're in business with your partner. It's just going into business as a CEO. Really.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I think totally.
Patience.
And a coach, you should do it with your co-founder, regardless of if that's your spouse or not. I am a big advocate of that. I think just be aligned on everything and call out the misalignments and just recalibrate it.
Yeah.
And also I think another piece of advice I would say, you do this every single day, enjoy the journey. And this is it for us. Like, we are building a happy company. It starts inside, it starts internal. And just be that for your team and embrace that culture of trust and loyalty and fun and happiness. We have the power to do that, that work and life balance. I think for me, work is a huge part of our life. And so it's up to us to make that a happy part of our life. And that's totally in our hands of every founder, I think, and the team that he surrounds himself with.
Really, truly wise words. I couldn't agree more. And what more motivating thing than to create a happy brand and a happy company,
right?
That ultimately drives success for us all. Thank you so much for joining me on Building While Flying. It's been so great chatting with you.